whole intro was shot on this, the Garmin 360 camera. I love what it does. I hate trying to edit with it. It's a pain in the ass to edit with it. Yeah, so we're going to try and get out with Jesse later on. He's got some really interesting thoughts on training for sort of the hilly type races, and pitfalls, advantages of certain types of training and all that kind of stuff. Skip to here for that. The Garmin review, I really enjoyed doing that Garmin review because it was a long-term review and I was able to get my head around it. And I kind of realized that I'd introduced a lot of products and things in the last year and did the first ride thing and never really followed it up. And that's kind of what the interesting stuff is. So look, here's a list of products or equipment that I did intro. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly just give you a long-term sort of thoughts, positives, advantages on those things. Well, now, what I thought we'd start with is the ceramic speed stuff. Now, obviously this is not like the full term like race review thing just yet. I fell over. So what I'll do is I'll break this down into sort of measured performance, perceived performance, and then a few maintenance things and bits and pieces that I've noticed in the last 3 or 4 months, okay? So look, as far as measured performance goes with the ceramic speed, not having a lab to do this, it's very, very difficult. I have a climb that I use down in Berry. For those of you who know the area, Berry Mountain West, it's about a 15-16 minute climb, which I use as sort of a thresholdy type climb, okay? So I've ridden this climb a lot in the past, so I have a good database of times on it. I've ridden it a good bit since with the ceramic speed stuff. At least a dozen thresholdy type efforts. And what I have found is that riding the ceramic speed stuff is on average about 11 seconds faster over approximately 15 minutes and 40 seconds, okay? Don't bother commenting below with, yes, Chris, that's not an exact sort of, yeah, I know. I've got some thoughts and some ideas about some performance things I can do in the next couple of weeks, specifically on the time trial bike. 11 seconds in a time trial, that's huge, isn't it? Perceived performance on it. Now, in the initial video, I did mention the shifting, and then I thought the shifting was improved by specifically the oversized jockey wheels. That was pretty smooth. That was pretty smooth. I have to take that back. I don't think the shifting's any different. It was probably due to the fact that it was a new chain, a new cassette, and just those sort of new bike feels that I had that kind of thing. I don't find any difference in the shifting between the standard Di2 and what I'm running with the ceramic speed. So shifting upgrades is what you want from ceramic speed oversized jockey wheels. You're barking up the wrong track.
Like, it is scarily quiet. A quiet drive chain is a fast drive chain, right? I mean, that's kind of what we're told. And when they're ticking away and making loads of noise, well, it's not going to be winning you any races. Overall, super, super quiet drive chain.
The other thing is maintenance, guys. Look, so as far as actually maintaining the bearings and maintaining sort of the operation of it, no problem so far. Cleaning the oversized jockey wheels is really, really easy. I do need to say this though, and specifically about the oversized jockey wheels. They're oversized jockey wheels, which means they're a little bit more fragile than normal ones, purely because of the physical nature of what that is hanging off the rear derailleur. For example, I've traveled a bit with my bike. You have to be a lot more careful of that rear derailleur due to the nature and the size of it. The other thing is what actually happened last night. So at Heffron, a really big, massive stick went banging its way back through the A-grade bunch at one point and smacked into my rear derailleur. 6 or 7 laps later, I had to pull out of the race. Probably would have happened if I was running a normal derailleur, but the fact is you are running a larger thing back there. Things like cafes, things like parking up before races, this type of stuff, you need to watch that derailleur because it's large. You just got to be careful of it, right? Next up are the 5000s. So look, not a huge amount to say about these, just in the sense that, well, there hasn't been many problems with them. I did flat them at gravel and tar, but that was in 40 k's of gravel. Never again. Actually, I will do it again. It's a good race. But look, it hasn't cut up. Obviously, I put some shots of the tyres and how they're sort of performing. But look, they're looking pretty good so far. I have noticed that a few places are bringing the price down. And I actually think that's going to be more interesting than the long-term review side of things, because I do think they are a better tyre. They are a better tyre than the 4000s, no two ways about it. They just weren't twice the price as good. I still really like the look of them too. Don't you think? Yeah, they're nice. Anyway, so that's the 5000s. The other ones that I really wanted to just mention quickly. This guy, the Bullet. I love this helmet. I ran both this and those and Warning. Melbourne's Warrnambool. So for those who don't know, it was a 270k one-day race. Now, I normally would never have considered to do that in an aero helmet where it's going to be 26, 27 degrees. But the mere fact that it was like the first 2 hours, right? So it was really hectic to try and get in the break. I was flat down. And then when like the heat totally went off, Sammy was in the break and all that kind of stuff, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna chill for a while. And yeah, popped up, and it's actually quite amazing how boom, that air hits you. Anyway, closed back down for the finish, and not that I did anything at the finish, but I reckon the cutoff temperature is around that 26, 27, 28 degrees. The other long-term one I wanted to mention are these, the S-Phyre shoes. Are they still white? Well, I haven't cleaned them since last night, and it did rain a bit last night, so sorry about that. So Warnie 3 years ago, I remember, I won't tell you what shoes I was running. Actually, I don't remember what shoes I was running, but they were honestly like, at the end of that race, it was honestly like just nails in your feet. I had no issues with these on the weekend. And it was interesting because it was a tailwind. It wasn't a super hard race, but because it was a tailwind, you're on the pedals the whole time. Even when you're in the bunch, you have to be on the pedals. Came through flying colours, but really good. I will say this, they're very airy. They are an airy shoe. Is that airy? Yeah, breathable shoe. So if you live in a really cold climate, I wouldn't recommend these because they keep your feet nice and cool. Apart from that, people living in normal parts of the world, I love them. Keep them white by dumping them in nappy sand about once a month with some hot water, let them soak for about 10 minutes, give them a little clean on the cloth, rinse them off, dry them in the sun, white as bro. Where is it? Scuff mark from the crash in Tassie. There it is, a little scuff mark there. But that's about it from those product things. Hello, here we are, we're at Tram Sheds. This place, didn't get one last year. I'm going to quickly introduce this. So the reason I wanted to have a chat to him about this is, so about 3 or 4, 5 years ago, I was training to do my first 3 peaks, and I started panicking about 2 or 3 months before the event. I just was riding around, and then someone told me that I should be doing, in a West life, I should be doing hill reps. So I found a 2-minute hill in Balmain and rode it like 12 times. I told him this the other day and he laughed. So I was going to find out why maybe he laughed.
Thank you. And yeah, like most important thing you probably need ideally once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, is you need a long ride. You just can't get away doing 1 to 1.5 hour rides if you're going to need to do an 8-hour Fondo. So once a week or once every 2 weeks, get out for 5-6 hours. Make the time and get it done because you need it, you just need it. So number 2 would be at least 1 session per week where you're cramming in as much intensity as you can at the race, at what you're going to need to hold in the race. So long hilly Fondo, a lot of time at tempo and a lot of time at sub-threshold. 1, maybe 2 rides a week, do that. So if you've got 90 minutes to do, give yourself, say 20-minute blocks, 2 or 3 minutes rest at sub-threshold power output, and just cram that in as much as you can. And you'll find over 90 minutes, maybe you can get in 60, 70 minutes of time at tempo, and over the weeks, bring the intensity up. After a few weeks of training, you should be able to hold close to sub-threshold power, 90 minutes with a few breaks in between, and that's a really quality session. Number 3, for the people training maybe 12 hours per less that don't have the hours to build up, is high intensity work, at least once per week as well. So that could be high threshold repeats, 8 to 10 minutes long, or if you prefer sort of on-off stuff, you could do 10-minute blocks of 30 on, 30 off. Just anything to really work that high threshold and above zone will really complement the other stuff you're doing. So we're talking about things not to do. So on that long ride I talked about, people think, okay, so it's a long ride, maybe in the race I'm gonna bonk and it'll be hard, so I'll sort of cut back what I'm eating on the bike and I'll try and make that long ride really hard. That is the opposite of what you want to do. You want the long ride to be quality and at as a higher output as you can do. So practice your nutrition. Keep fueled on that ride. That's what you want. You want to be feeling good at the end of a 5-hour ride. You don't want to be crawling home 4 hours in. That doesn't get you any magical training benefit. And number 2, as we kind of discussed at the start, is don't worry too much about the terrain. If you live in a city with no climbs and the nearest climb, for us in Sydney, we have to ride for an hour to get to an 8-minute climb. So don't worry about it. Priority is the output that you need to do physiologically. You don't need to be going up a hill to get those adaptations. You can do that on the flat. From my own experience and from a lot of the riders I coach, a watt on the flat is usually pretty equal to a watt up a hill. 200 watts for an hour on the flat. You'll probably be able to do that up a hill, but it doesn't necessarily work the other way around. So if you do all your training on climbs and you can do 200 watts for an hour up a climb, you probably might struggle to do that on the flat if you've been training on climbs. So what that means is if you're training for a hilly race, you're probably okay to do most of your training on the flat. That will carry over. Yeah, so the third one there, I think people often fall into the trap of thinking they're gonna overtrain. You can back up day after day. Go ahead, string 3, 4, 5 days back to back. Your body can handle a lot. I think a lot of people do 1, 2 hard sessions and they think, oh, I need a rest day, like I'm gonna overtrain. Test yourself, give yourself those days strung together. That's when you really get the good adaptations. Doing 2 hard days in a row, then having 2 or 3 light days. It's not really gonna cut the mustard. So don't be scared to push yourself because most people will surprise themselves with what they can do. And some of the athletes I coach and myself, and I think you've probably noticed this, is you can have a few really hard weeks and you think, man, I'm really stuffed. You go out and do a max effort and you hit your power PB. And you think, how did I do that? I thought I had to be fresh to do that. So you can really surprise yourself. If every time you got on the bike that you felt a bit sore, you thought, oh no, I need an easy day, you'll never get fit. You need to train when you're fatigued. That's how you get fit. So don't be too scared or precious about it. Get some proper gearing. Can I say that?
Yeah.
Don't do 3 peaks going up the backside of Falls Creek with a 39/28 easiest gear. It is too hard. Go to your bike shop and get it sorted out. Practice what you're gonna eat in the race. I think some people think of energy gels as like, oh, it's a race food, I'll have some for the race, but energy gel is just sugar and water coagulated together. It's nothing to be scared of. You should be training with them. If you're going to use them on race day, train with them and get used to them.
That was pretty cool, I thought. It's far more insightful than anything I normally offer. So pop a comment below maybe with some of the other questions, areas you'd like someone with some knowledge to actually talk to us about. Will we be riding later this evening, Jesse Coyle?
Rain or not, we got to ride.
Yeah, we're going to ride.
We both had a rest day yesterday.
Toughen up. So it's very rare I do a vlog where there's literally no bikes. I finish up with a product that we'll chat about in the next couple of weeks. Unboxing. Guys know I don't love trainers. I don't like using trainers. But what I wanted is something that we could take to races and warm up on. But the smart trainers and that kind of stuff, they're a pain. Okay, so they're a pain to set up, but they're also like really, really, really bulky. I see a lot of guys, a lot of solo guys, especially at masters races and stuff, like with these huge warm-up setups. And I'm like, what are the masters guys? I think, we're taking kids, we've got baby seats and all that kind of stuff. Get a nice, simple solution warm-up thing, especially for some of those chilly regional starts that can happen. So we'll take these to Wagga in the next couple of weeks. And then have a look. through axle, that's for your, don't lose that, Chris, that's for, right. So that's it, like, rear wheel there, fork in there, it's got a through axle adapter there. Pretty good. Alright, so you'll see us in Wagga. When I say us, I mean me and the trainers, because I'll let you know how they get on. If you want me to do a review on these, let me know. I'm not a huge trainer person, so I kind of thought what would be more interesting is how they go out on the road in that circumstance, rather than a sit-down sort of review, but let me know if you do want to see it. Apart from that, please do subscribe to the channel, guys. We've got heaps of stuff coming up, races, reviews, training chat with Jesse, and all that sort of stuff. Apart from that, I should probably go for a bike ride. All right, see ya.